Welcome to today's presentation, Why Predictive Analytics Should Be Part of Your 2015 Strategy. And speaking of 2015, this is our first webinar of the year, so Happy New Year to all of you. I see many familiar names in our attendee list and also many new names, so welcome those of you who are new to Done Solutions webinars. Today's presenter, who you will meet in a couple of minutes, is Joseph Brandenburg. He is the director of our Predictive Analytics practice. And he has a full hour of really interesting information around predictive analytics for you. So I'm only going to take up a couple of minutes in the introduction. First, to speak about some housekeeping. Today's session will be recorded and shared with everyone, hopefully within the week. If you have any questions, because of all the content we need to fit into the 60 minutes, Joe has asked that he answer questions following the webinar via email. So we do encourage you to submit them, and I'm sure many of you will have questions, and we will follow up afterwards. Okay, let's take a look at today's agenda. I will begin with an intro to Done Solutions. I'll turn it over to Joe, and he's going to walk you through an intro to predictive analytics. What is UDIB, talk about the definition of predictive analytics and why it's important for companies to use it to stay competitive. He's going to discuss how key decision makers can make better business plans and improve business decisions using it, how and when departments and organizations can incorporate predictive analytics as part of their BI strategy, how current technologies are making it easier than ever for companies of all sizes to implement predictive analytics. And finally, he'll review some case studies, and we'll see what predictive analytics looks like in the real world and how it does generate significant ROI. Okay, on to the Done Solutions introduction. We have a long history of delivering innovative business technology solutions to companies. We are headquartered just outside of Chicago and have offices in Minneapolis, Raleigh, St. Louis, and Bangalore, India. Our offerings fall into three practice areas. Application development solutions features portals, e-commerce, and content-managed websites, mobile application development, and custom application development. Our business intelligence solutions features analytics and BI platforms, as well as data warehouse and data integration, including predictive analytics. We are an authorized SAP and Liferay training provider. We believe training is important because once we deliver a solution, we want to be sure that those who need to know how to use and maintain it do. And finally, we offer several out-of-the-box analytics frameworks. Our BI frameworks include solutions for accountable care organizations, corporate legal departments, higher education institutions, and optical shops. Done Solutions has been helping companies leverage their data for over 25 years. Our business intelligence practice helps deliver information to decision makers throughout your organization so that it runs better. We can help with decision making by not only looking in the rearview mirror, but also looking forward into the future by leveraging predictive analytics and data mining techniques. Our predictive analytics practice helps companies make the most of their existing data to uncover future trends, risks, and opportunities that result in bigger returns or to avoid big losses. We maintain strong partnerships with top technology companies in order to offer our clients the most innovative solutions available. We are an SAP Gold partner and have been a top-level partner for nearly 20 years. As an SAP authorized training partner, we help companies nationwide maximize their technology investments and offer public, private, virtual, and custom courses. And our public classrooms are located in Minneapolis, St. Louis, and Raleigh. We offer a global delivery model that gives us the flexibility to build teams that are best suited to our clients' timelines, budgets, and preferences. Projects that utilize offshore resources are always led by someone local and U.S.-based. Our clients, some of which are included here, are a combination of Fortune 500, mid-market companies, government agencies, and nonprofits across all verticals. All right, so that's what I have for today. Again, welcome to all of you. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe at this point, so let me make him the presenter. And again, thank you for joining us. Joe, I'm turning it over to you. Joe, will you say hello so we make sure that we have audio?
Hi, Lori. Thanks.
All right. You got it. All right. It's all yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for joining, everybody. Let me go ahead and start out the presentation here. I want to give you a little bit of an overview of who I am and kind of what we're doing here at Dun Solutions as far as predictive analytics and data mining go. And so I'm going to take you through a little bit of information about me and who, what kind of things we do and what we have available to us. So I'm Joe Brandenburg, Joseph Brandenburg if you prefer. We've been performing, and I've been performing managing predictive analytics projects for about the last 17 years, a little over that. I have helped companies realize multiple billions of dollars in new revenue and helped them avoid potential big losses. Also have expertise across many industries: financial services, banking, insurance, CPG, retail, higher education, and many others, actually. Also, I am the Predictive Analytics Practice Leader for Dun Solutions. I've been here almost 3 months now and been building out the practice and a lot of our capabilities. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually take you through what an acronym that I've invented called UDIB and what that's all about. And then I'm going to talk about what predictive analytics is. And then I'm going to take you through the important factors for companies to use predictive analytics to stay competitive. Then I'm going to tell you about how key decision makers can make better plans and improve business decisions with predictive analytics. I'm going to talk about how and when departments and organizations can incorporate predictive analytics as part of the business intelligence strategy to minimize effort and cost. I'm also going to talk about some of the current technologies that are out there and available. I'm actually not going to take you through those today, but follow up with a future webinar. And actually, we're going to do some demos and some neat stuff around some of the different softwares and capabilities. And then I'm going to take you through the case studies, as Lori told you about, in banking and retail and insurance. So what is the UDIB? UDIB is actually a simple concept for developing predictive analytics. It's the ability to understand, determine, implement, and benefit from implementing and running predictive analytics. So it's to understand what the problem areas are or what opportunities exist, determine which course of action you should take to address the questions, implement the techniques and models that best answer the issues, and then benefit from the implementation by measuring the results and setting baselines. So what is predictive analytics? Well, this is actually a neat little picture I actually took at the north rim of the Grand Canyon. There was this neat little squirrel that would run up into the pine trees, and he would grab a nut and he would taste it. And if he didn't like it, he would throw it down. Well, it's really cool because this is actually kind of the same thing as predictive analytics. You're testing out different types of data and nuts to figure out which ones are the best, which ones are available to you, what types of sources you should have, and how you should identify them. So it's basically, it's projecting where the best and sweetest nuts will be in the forest, hidden amongst all the trees and other nuts. And it's based on where you have been before, what you know about the situations, and what others have told you. So that actually incorporates a lot of different data, but it also includes market research. So keep that in mind as you kind of learn about predictive analytics and what it is. All right, so we're looking at predictive analytics. There's a natural progression in business value and complexity. So at the bottom corner of it, you start with reporting. You know, what's happened. And then there's analysis. What did it happen? Why did it happen? And then monitoring. What's happening now? So this would be your live dashboards and information like that. And then there's predictions. What might happen? You know, what's going to happen next if I do X and Y and Z? You know, and as part of the business intelligence technology, so as part of the prediction, you have predictive analytics. As part of the monitoring, you have dashboards and scorecards. As part of the analysis, you have OLAP and visualizations. And then as part of the reporting, you have querying, reporting, and search tools. Then what does predictive analytics provide? It helps to assess, predict, and solve business problems using lots of data. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you about today's session, and a lot of people here don't will tell you, I'm all about the math. But we're not going to talk about math. We're not going to do any confusing things. We're just kind of give you an overview of what it is and give you the interpretations of what it has the potentials to do. So there's a lot of statistical modeling and forecasting predictions that are associated to it. And there's multiple different levels that you could have. So there's summary reporting, forecast optimizations. You have detail. So in the insurance world, you would say, okay, well, let me look at my policies and claims. And then data mine those to see patterns and what I need to do to adjust prices, for instance. Then you have transactional opportunities where you're looking and basically searching through your data to find patterns that you want to validate and test against. And then what are some of those things? So you can do out basic forecasting, which is there in the upper right-hand corner. You can develop out heat maps that'll look at different quarters, different types of issues. And then you can look at your detail and your transactional, which will give you customer lifetime values, persistencies, high-value customers, what products are they buying, when are they buying, how do they get there, by examining sales funnel and all kinds of stuff like that. Then you can take all of that information and you can compile it together. And this is just one really simple, basic example of what's called a power ranking report. This is basically when you go out into the marketplace, you identify all the different key components that are driving your sales at a finite market level, and you determine what markets you should target. Now, why would you want to know that? Well, think about it for a second. If you have lots of potential buyers, you have a good market, you have a good competitive position, you could get more out of your advertising campaigns in those locations because you're going to find more people that potentially want to buy your product versus other locations where you may not be as well developed, you may not be as well known. And then what does predictive analytics bring to the table beyond traditional reporting? Well, let's look at what traditional reporting is. Traditional reporting works great for viewing current data. If you have a dynamic dashboard that updates on real time, or you have potential lags and stuff like that, you can use data warehouses to show historical trends. And the average person, when they're looking at dashboards, can absorb between 3, maybe 4 variables and get a good feel of, what the behavior is, what my trends are, things like that. And then people are only good at identifying big trends and relationships with traditional reporting. Believe me, it has its place, and it's a great thing. And actually, if you implement it with predictive analytics, where it sets your baselines, you can really track where you're going and what you want to do. And then what is predictive analytics? Well, predictive analytics is forward-looking. It's measurable and traceable. You can take lots and lots and lots of data. So you can take big data, you can take your huge databases, your web analytics, maybe you have Google Analytics, you have Omniture or something like that you want to gather up those millions and potentially billions and trillions of records and be able to synthesize them and understand what's going on. And then also the last piece, and this is actually one of the misnomers that most people have, is the predictive analytics is a forecast. It actually, some of it is, but not all of it is. You are also looking at trends and data mining things and looking at different things that are happening that you wouldn't say that you would necessarily want to forecast, because it might be something that's really hidden and finite. And then how is predictive analytics used? Well, I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. So I'm looking at a potential marketing campaign here because it's heavily used in marketing. It doesn't necessarily just have to be marketing. You can use it in IT, you can use it in risk, you can use it in all parts of the organization. But anyway, so which segments should I target? And that means where is the opportunity for me to expand? Let's say that you're only in a few states or you don't have a lot of awareness. What are the potentials? And this predictive analytics helps you to identify where those opportunities exist through a series of segmentations. And then where are your customers, who are your customers, how you should be targeting them, and all that stuff as part of a marketing mix potentially. And then also as part of a marketing mix, can I reduce advertising costs by 20% without impacting my sales? And what channel is most effective to reach certain customers? So there are different websites. There are different channels that people watch, as you're aware. There are different TV shows and different radio programs and different billboards that people pass. And how do you get them that message? And then once you get them that message, what message would you get them to be retained and stay with you as a company? And then if I sell items in a bundle, will my overall sales increase? So basically you're looking at what products and combinations do people want, what products and combinations are the right things to actually present. Most companies look at things where it's everybody's the same. That trend is changing and changing very quickly with recommendation engines and stuff like that on the internet that are becoming very big, and you really need predictive analytics to be able to do those things. And then, so now we're going to look at why is it important for companies to use predictive analytics and to stay competitive. Well, there's lots of research out there. There's lots of things that have been done. Predictive analytics has really been a hot topic for about 8 years now. And it really has a lot of traction because of overall value. So looking at a recent study from the Economist Intelligence Unit revealed that business leaders rate creating a data strategy for marketing and predictive analytics as one of marketing's most important priorities. And that's across the board. I mean, there's just tons and tons and tons of organizations that believe that they need to be able to implement predictive analytics to stay competitive. And then the other reason that you should really think about predictive analytics is the payback. Analytics, this is across many industries, many different organizations. Analytics pays back $10.66 for every dollar spent on predictive analytics. Well, think about that for a minute. If you could get $10 for every dollar you spent on anything, you'd be happy about it. Well, one thing I can tell you about us is Done Solutions actually, our projects have been more like $100 for every dollar spent. And that there's a reason for that, because we implement things where we get to know you as an organization, we understand your business verticals, and we also then implement and produce the statistical analysis that's necessary to be able to give those kinds of returns. Well, think about it for a second. And why should you want to do predictive analytics? Well, your competitor who's doing predictive analytics is getting that $100. And what if you're not? You know, maybe or maybe not, if you're trying to say, well, I think this is what I should do. You may or may not realize that. You may actually lose money on your projects. And then, so anyway, so why are more and more companies using it? Predictive analytics has proven over and over again that it leads to increased sales and profits. Marketing, sales, and customer relationship management are some of the areas where the returns from analytics are the highest. An example, and this is actually a real-life example of a project that I did actually within the last year, and one online retailer was able to increase its sales by 30% for a single campaign and by 3% for the whole company. This added an additional $80 million in revenue from one area alone. Now, admittedly, this company is about $1 billion company, but who wouldn't want an additional $80 million from predictive analytics? And then, so the next part we're going to go through is how key decision makers can make better plans and improve business decisions with predictive analytics. So why is predictive analytics changing the game? Successful predictive analytics projects are a driving force. The movement to customer-oriented and action needs-focused organizations is accelerating. And believe me, it's accelerating every single day. Companies are getting smarter. If you go to websites like Amazon, Amazon has all kinds of recommendations that you have available to you. It has all kinds of different things that it's going to show you through your customer experience, especially if you log in. It has very, very sensitive recommendation engines. And then also there's been a lot of research. Forrester, who's one of the highly trusted organizations within market research, has concluded that predictive analytics brings fresh momentum. You know, if you're growing, but let's say your sales are stagnant in certain areas, predictive analytics can kind of take a new deep dive look at that and potentially find you some new revenue. And then here's some information that is actually from the Harvard Business Review, and it's how predictive analytics can lead to better decision making. Analytically driven companies use predictive analytics to help their companies, just like yours, make the most of their existing data to uncover future trends, risks, and opportunities that result in big returns or avoid big losses. And I'm going to keep telling you that over and over again. And you know, there's lots of trends, risks, opportunities out there. There's 3 different types of people that have been identified within the business framework. So 19% of employees are what they call visceral decision makers. These visceral decision makers often don't trust any analysis. They also make decisions unilaterally, which means that they're basically putting their finger up in the air, feeling what the wind is, or throwing something at a dartboard and hoping that it hits. And maybe they even have their eyes closed when they do it. Then there's 38% of employees that are what they call informed skeptics. This is where they apply judgment to analysis. They listen to others but are willing to dissent. These are the key people, and these are often the people that work in predictive analytics because they're listening to you. They want to know what your needs are and what you want to do, but they're also willing to take data and turn that into information and give you a different potential outcome. Or not, they will confirm what you believe is true so that it makes a more informed decision. And then there's 43% of employees who are what they call unquestioning empiricists. These are people that they'll go through data, they'll look at something, they'll get a report, they'll trust it. They won't have any questions or, you know, is this true, is this not true? And then they also value consensus. You know, they follow the crowd is what it means. And then how do we take that information and how do we turn that into the advantages of real information to make decisions? So visceral decision makers often make decisions based on their gut, which could be contrary to what their customers want or their operations need. Ideally, analytically driven companies must have predictive analytics embedded in all of their business processes, thereby moving away from decision based on gut, feel, or intuition. And this is actually really important because if you have a lot more analytics available to you, you have a lot more information in your hands, you can make better decisions. And then by embracing data, BI, and predictive analytics, management in the companies become better, users of information and make the most out of it, just like they do in other areas such as managing talent, capital, or their all-important brands. One of the things that, it's kind of negative here, but too many executives treat data as something the IT department handles and often considers themselves too novice to get deeply involved in how data is shared across the organization. And then managers and senior managers need to wake up to the fact that their data investments are providing limited returns because their organization is underinvested in understanding the information. And believe me, I've seen this over and over and over again throughout my career that, you know, they think, oh, well, we've got huge databases, we've got UDIB, we've got this, we've got big data. And they really don't. They only have some reports, and they may have some monitoring, but they're not a data-driven organization. And then tailoring your management and experience to the customer. Basically in most industries, this is not all, you know, there are some variations, but most industries, the customer life cycle exists with acquisition of the customer, relationship and with the customer, retention activities, and then once you've lost the customer, trying to win them back and get them to come back in either to your store or to your subscription-based service or your insurance or your bank or whatever. And then each phase should have several embedded analytical models which can enhance operations considerably and provide the strategic advantage. What this means basically is you go through, you identify what your key components are, and you use predictive analytics to set the baselines. And then you monitor those baselines and make adjustments to all of those different parts of the organization. And one thing that you can tell about this is often there are people and organizations that they'll get the information, they'll make really quick changes, and basically the models are no longer necessary. So you have to think about that. You have to have the potential of being nimble and not just being locked to a basic dashboard. You need to have a more dynamic thinking. And then I'm going to look a little bit about how and when departments and organizations can incorporate predictive analytics as part of the business intelligence strategy to minimize effort and cost. So when to implement predictive analytics? I can say that there's no better time than the present, but it is best to incorporate predictive analytics in with other implementations of smart tools and BI. It makes it easier because you're looking to that dynamic, and there's some things that you actually have to think about when you go to implement predictive analytics, and that is that predictive analytics is made up of three major components. There's data, the statistics part of it, or the mathematics, and then there's assumptions. You can't just jump in and say, oh, we're going to do predictive analytics and not have an idea of what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. And then it's also important to be prepared to make some changes to your data and arrange the data in a data warehouse or in an extract that is aligned with what you want to look at, how you want to look at it. Traditionally, a lot of data has been grabbed and manipulated by statisticians, but you also want to have the capability of having other people within the organization be able to look and examine this data. And then many analytic softwares today have the ability to do this automatically, which is great because when I first started doing predictive analytics 17 years ago, probably about 90 to 95% of your time was spent in data manipulation, data cleansing, data preparation, and then about 5 to 10% was in modeling. And then the rest of it was in developing out your findings and your presentations and your implementation. And then so looking at the different components, so data, statistics, and assumptions. So data, predictive analytics needs the right kind of data and information to help answer the main questions you're trying to predict or forecast. It is a best practice to collect as much relevant data as possible in relation to what you are trying to predict. This means tracking past data, customer data, demographic information, and potentially weather and all kinds of different stuff that depending upon what you're trying to do. And then there's the statistical aspects of it. So most predictive analysis starts with a curiosity about the business problem or customer, potentially a hypothesis. There are some changes and some new capabilities within predictive analytics that change that story a little bit, because you have the capabilities now of doing more exploratory problem identification and opportunity identification that you didn't have even 3, 4, 5 years ago. This didn't exist, and even in the past couple of years it really didn't exist. So in the assumptions part, we are focusing on looking to the future. However, you are using past information to predict the future. So as part of that, you're going to say, my business model is going to act similarly in the future as it does today. And then the next part is you need to understand what you're trying to solve. You can't just go in, throw a lot of things at it, not understand the business parts of it, and say, oh, well, this is the answer. You really have to know what you're trying to do. And then I have a lot of companies are working with big data. They're trying to implement big data. However, they're not trying to look at predictive analytics or some of the things that are available there. And one of the things is having and implementing big data does not have to not help you. It does not help you make better decisions. It really can actually cause you more trouble because you need potentially more storage or more off-site costs and things like that. The process of taking big data and developing analytics, especially predictive analytics, drives better decision-making in the long run. And then big data has tons of great data, but predictive analytics synthesizes that data into actionable information, if it's done correctly, that is. There are a lot of people out there and a lot of companies that will approach you and tell you, oh, well, we have predictive analytics. But they do their predictive analytics, and by the time you're done, there's no actionability out of what was found. You really have to understand that there are business implications as part of your analysis. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about and go into some detail about some of these different categories. So what are some of the common uses? And it doesn't just have to be marketing activities. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So you have collections analytics. I mean, you can look at operational analytics. I've actually done that before. You can look at econometric things out in the marketplace. So this list is not exhaustive. There are many, 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 many other things. So you can look at collections analytics. This is basically, who in banking, let's take that for instance, who's likely to default on their mortgage? If they default on their mortgage, how likely are you to go to foreclosure? And then being able to take that information and then being able to identify who those people are, what actions you should do with them, and make sure that you have the proper staffing and capabilities to make the phone calls, send the mail letters, all of those different activities. And you monitor and you predict each of those different activities. So how many calls are coming in, how many calls are going out, and things. And then you also have marketing activities. So this is big. This is where most of the predictive analytics is going on, other than pricing. So cross-selling activities, customer retention, direct marketing, portfolio product or economy level predictions. And then analytics within your CRM systems. You know, if you've got Salesforce or Oracle On Demand or one of the other popular CRMs, you can take that information, integrate it with other parts of your organization, and actually be able to do predictive models on that and identify what are the key things. You know, who are your best customers, and what do your best customers look like? What do they do? What are their activities? What are their behaviors? How do they search your website? Stuff like that. What do they ultimately purchase? And when do they come back? And all of those different things are possible. And then also within the risk management framework, so you have fraud detection, huge within banking, financial services, even within retail, you have fraudulent purchases and different things like that. And then within the healthcare, health insurance, property casualty insurance, or anything that has an underwriting aspect to it, implementing predictive analytics around that. And then pricing. There's a marketing aspect to pricing, but there's also a risk management aspect to pricing. And there's slightly differing techniques that you would do for identifying, are you properly priced? Do you have, is your product elastic or inelastic? And how much demand do you have? And there's lots of different things that are associated to that. And then last but not least, there's disease prevention and management. So clinical decision support systems, or identifying different disease states, and how many people go into the hospital, and how many people that get out of the hospital, how many of those are readmitted. There's some implications related to Medicare and stuff like that that can have big impacts here. And then, so I'm going to go through a few of these different things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are and how you can take advantage of them and who would potentially use these. So anyway, you have campaign analytics. Earlier, upselling through campaigns used to be carried out through trial and error, and a lot of companies still do that. They'll go out and they'll try a campaign, and if that campaign doesn't work, then they'll try a different campaign. As you can imagine, your marketing spend and your campaign spends are going to be tremendously high, and you may or may not hit the target. So nowadays, we have privacy issues. We have different things where operators are forbidden from reaching out to customers repeatedly. We have do not call lists, things like that. So in all instances of customer contact becomes significant. So in such a scenario, analytics can help develop a sharpshooting method to run campaigns. And then based on historical data, customer profiles, what we call customer profiles is segmentation. And then there's many aspects of that. It is possible to classify customers according to their likelihood of buying a product or a service through a campaign. Thus, every campaign can target the set of customers with better purchasing potential for that service or product. And then while these statistics-driven campaigns yield higher ROI, they also reduce the irritation caused by non-relevant communications, thereby indirectly reducing customer dissidence. And this is actually huge today, because you think about how many people will go out and sign up for an email campaign, and let's say that your email campaigns are not well targeted. You're going to be sent, and let's say that you have 2, 3, 4, 5 emails a day that are going to hit this customer. They're going to get irritated with that after a while, and they're going to go off of your list. And if you would have done predictive analysis, you could have identified that, okay, this customer likes this type of product over this type of product. So when I have this type of product available, I'm going to send them a campaign related to that. And not only that, but as part of the strategic targeting, I'm also going to target out my message. And then with campaign analytics, it's most beneficial to product management teams. New methods also are excluding unprofitable customers. So you basically set up that tier of your 10% customers on each side. You know, usually 10% to 20% of your customers drive almost all of your business. So you're identifying those people, what they buy, other people like them, and targeting those other people like them to potentially buy your products. All right, so one of the biggest pieces and one of the biggest issues in modeling is losing a customer. You know, especially in subscription-based type things where keeping a customer is fairly cheap. Finding a new customer is pretty expensive. So this costs millions of dollars every year. And it's probably one of the most widely used analytic models, are churn modeling, to help reduce the impact of voluntary churn to the bottom line. Lots of companies are doing this now. It's really, really, really big. Typically, the model measures the churn. I'm going to throw a statistics term at you, and I'm sorry. It's called churn propensity. So basically what propensity means is it's the likelihood or the probability of a customer leaving you. And then you also want to look at your profitable customers, and then being able to personalize actions and potentially offer freebies or discounts special to them so that they stick around. And it really does, and it has been proven that rewards and campaigns that are targeted towards these personalizations really do keep customers around. And it definitely, you know, for a very low cost associated to most of these activities, you can get a person to stick around. And then the value of offers can be tailored to suit profitable customers. Churn models is an easy analytics option too. It's actually relatively low in complexity, tends to be widely accepted among functions, and it can provide immediate results. And then the typical implementers of these are the marketing departments who usually initiate these activities, and most companies use their customer service and sales teams to execute these plans. And then cross-selling and upselling. This is huge as well. And what I've seen over the years is this actually tends to be one of the key drivers for adding additional revenue in a fairly easy way when the company has more than one product available. So it can be a big challenge in most industries to increase your yield from current customers, subscribers, and you also want to know how to improve your average revenue per user. Cross-selling and upselling activities can now be supported by predictive analytics based on transaction histories and like customer behaviors, or people who have similar characteristics, behaviors, certain locations, things like that. And then analytically driven cross-selling and upselling campaigns provide remarkably high returns. Most of the projects that I've been involved with, and there are some huge CPG and retailers that are associated to this, most projects see at least a 40% lift in cross-sell and upsell. And by moving beyond financials, they increase retention and reduce the number of contracts required for cross-selling and upselling, required for cross-selling and upselling. These models may be integrated with real-time decision engines, or what they call a recommendation engine, and developed as real-time cross-selling and upselling systems. So if you have an online retail website, you could potentially integrate in your database that's behind the scenes that offers products and be able to cross-sell and up those through those recommendation engines. The campaigns are usually planned by the marketing department and executed through inbound customer-facing teams, mainly through call centers and web transactions. And then another one, and a great one for most organizations, is customer lifetime value analytics. This is basically segmenting out who your best customers are, what they're worth to you, and then you can also implement retention campaigns where it takes a small percentage of that yield and keeps them around. And then you can also identify who your high priority customers, who should be given loyalty bonuses, preferential treatment through personalized services, better credit norms for contract subscribers, just as an example. And these analytic models may be utilized across all functions like marketing, credit risk, customer service, and so on. And then customer segmentation. This has been one of the main analytic models in the retail, financial services, CPG, and service industries. This actually really started out of retail many years ago and has really developed into go across many different verticals. Customer segmentation looks at both the prospect parts, so who's going to go through your sales funnel, and then the purchase phases. So what are they looking at? What did they potentially put in their cart? What did they abandon out of their cart? Did they change their mind? Did they not find the product that they wanted? You know, that search behavior, that pattern behavior. Also looking at what they call attitudinal segmentation, or how the customer feels about it, the company and the products in general. And then the first stage of segmentation helps reach out to the prospects with higher predicted conversion rates, thereby increasing the campaign success rate as well as the ROI. During campaigns, prospects are divided into segments to be specifically targeted by a specific campaign. So that's that personalization, or what they call a customer-centric behavior. This approach eliminates meaningless segments that are unnecessarily cluttering up the thinking and the execution of the campaign. So you're basically not throwing campaigns to people that won't buy your product, have absolutely no interest in that particular product, but might potentially purchase another product that you have. And then moving out of the marketing space for a second, I'll go back to it in a minute, but you know, one of the big things that's really going on in the marketplace today is fraud. It's all over the place. You know, there's stolen credit cards, there's, you know, so it impacts banks, it impacts retailers, it impacts all different segments in one way or another. So it's one of the key causes of lost revenue in many industries. Efficient fraud detection systems can help companies save a significant amount of money. You know, for every fraud that you detect early on, let's say they make a single purchase with a credit card that isn't their own, and they've identified that as an outside of the norm purchase, they can lock that card down and send a message to their customer and say, you know, did this fraud? Is this fraud? Is this you? You know, you don't normally buy stuff like this. You know, should we lock down your card and send you a new one? And then fraud detection systems depend upon data mining. And sorry for the algorithms term, but that's how it works. It's data mining algorithms to identify and alert the companies to fraudulent customers and suspicious behavior, as what I just mentioned. Remember, there's tons of different types of fraud. It doesn't necessarily have to be just somebody steals your credit card. You know, there could be people activating different cards in your name. There could be people driving with your driver's license. I mean, there's tons of different types. And there's lots of different analytic models and methods to aid in the detection. And then the biggest users of this information are risk management teams. And then back to marketing spend optimization, or what they like to refer to as marketing mix. And actually in the future I'm going to be doing a full dedicated webinar to this. This is one of our top areas and top capabilities is actually being able to do marketing mix, so I thought it would be important to have a future webinar related to that. And the reason why is because companies spend tons of money on mass media. They spend on television, newspapers, radios, magazines, email campaigns, and the internet. You know, banner ads, AdWords, all kinds of different things. And are often appropriations are done on the basis of instinct rather than hard facts. Marketing mix actually allows you to look at the ROI of each differing campaign by the way that we do it, and you can make better decisions. You can also do simulations on your advertising before you even do a campaign to look at like campaigns and see how successful those potential campaigns are, and determine how much spend you should spend on each of these differing things. So how much should you spend on television? How much should you spend on radio and magazines and email to get the biggest return and to touch the most customers that want to buy your product? And then a marketing spend optimization, or better known as a marketing mix model, helps marketing managers and product managers take decisions based on what works and what doesn't. This analytic model has been considerable benefit to marketing functions and is widely used in marketing return on investment. And I could say that, as I had mentioned before, this returns about 40% lift in your campaigns just by doing a marketing mix optimization. And then there's price optimization, or what they know as price elasticity. So what elasticity is it is the variation of people, the number of people that buy your product at differing price points. So if your product is sold at $2, you'll have, let's say, 1,000 people buy it. If your product is $10, let's say 50 people buy it. And then you would look at those different measurements between it and determine how much elasticity you have. And then you would do what they call an optimization to drive the significant revenue development and profitability. And it's especially important in corporate sales segments where awareness of impact of various price options is critical. And then also, one of the really neat things that you can do with pricing is actually do simulated scenarios, because you're capturing tons and tons and tons of data points on prices so that you can do these simulations before you even go into the marketplace. And then these models are widely used by product managers and finance teams. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about social networks. So traditionally, customers have been measured in terms of revenue they bring into a company. Makes sense. But think about now, and think about all the different social media, so the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Pinterest, and all those. And the impacts that those may have. And who are those people that are socially influential on their peer groups? So if, let's say, they went out and they bought something and they really, really, really liked it, they're going to tell you about it in social media. Or, on the opposite, or the polarized portion of that, they bought something or used a service and really hated it. It could really cost you a lot of business. So these people may not necessarily be profitable to you, but they do have an impact on overall value. And actually, there's some new methodologies that have been worked around for the past couple of years where you can take social interactions and social media and potentially millions of different websites, bring that data in, synthesize that out into the impact of somebody negatively commenting on your product. And then this is a type of differentiation that is possible through social analytics. This model is a great help in the areas of churn prevention, of profitable customers, cross-selling of new products, and so on. And then also one of the other big pieces to this, and I actually was part of some of the first things that Facebook did a few years ago with their advertising campaigns. And you can actually test advertisements through it. Did a project with Pepsi and with General Motors, and we tested some advertising and did measurement of the number of impressions and the potential of driving sales through that. And then social media analytics. So listening to the customers and understanding their needs is crucial, especially in the era of viral communication. While it has been established practice to undertake sentiment analysis based on content from call center logs and social media through reporting and dashboards, it's been underutilized in predictive models. Predictive models can help utilize social media analysis to listen to the written words. So it's basically text mining is the buzzword that you may hear out there of, you know, people use different search words, different things within social media on Facebook and said, I hate this, I like this, I want this, I need this type of behavior. And then data mining techniques add a tremendous value in this area. Similar feedback around key decisions, areas pertaining to the company's activities can be brought together using various methods. And then the final one is web analytics. So web analytics, obviously there's tons of information. There's search, there's Google Analytics, there's Omniture, there's Core Metrics, there's tons of different things that are available to you in the web analytics area. It's been an area where typically it's only reporting and dashboarding, which is mostly what Google will give you and some of the other tools will give you. But predictive analysis and predictive models can take those web analytics to a new level. Using data mining techniques, customer profiles that help determine which factors differentiate the behavior of one group from another may be generated from this. So if you think about a website, you go in and you are able to look at how someone came to your website, how someone behaved on your website, did they buy or did they abandon? And you can look at all of those different things through Google Tag Manager or something like that and identify their travel patterns and behaviors, and then optimize those things for customers that do similar types of searches, similar types of travel patterns. And then models can be used to identify new visitors and predict their future behavior. For example, if they will subscribe to a particular service or not, which is really big. And then what are some of the common tools? Like I said, there's going to be a full webinar on this talking about the technologies, and we're going to give some really cool demos of some of the different tools available. But I'm just going to give you a couple. So we are an SAP partner, so obviously we want to talk a little bit about predictive analysis and infinite insight. They are great tools. They are really neat tools. They can do some amazing things for people that are not data scientists and not statisticians. Then there's also SAS. SAS is near and dear to my heart. Been programming in SAS for about 17 years, so know a lot about it. SPSS as well. Been used that for probably about 10 years, and it's a great tool. And then R. Hey, who can complain about free analytics, you know? There's actually some really cool tools within R. And some capabilities, and then there's also a web-based version called Shiny that actually develops out Java code. So we're going to give some really cool demos on those 5 tools in particular. There are lots and lots and lots of others. There are many free, there are many paid. These are the tops in the industry. And then I'm going to take you through a couple case studies just to give you an idea. You know, there is a lot of money available by doing predictive analytics. So one of the things, a few years ago, went into one of the top 10 U.S.-based banks. Mostly they're in the southeast. They were basically facing huge delinquencies. This is actually when the economic downturn was really starting to bite in 2009. And they also had a huge backlog of foreclosures, more calls than they could ever potentially make. So what did we do? So went in and designed out a predictive modeling engine and a series of dashboard of reporting environments that tracked all customer lending and mortgages, so that it integrated. All of their systems were disparate. So we added them all together and basically took them through the customer journey. So we could look at every product that they had within the bank. We also tracked customers through models to help them determine when and what actions best fit the situation. So, you know, it might be a location in Florida and your house was $300,000, now it's worth $150,000. So, you know, you may or may not want to foreclose on that property because you are guaranteed you're going to lose money. So are there other things that you can do to try and alleviate some of that loss? And then as the result, so this was the only one of the top 25 banks that actually had to go back for a second round of TARP. That was identified through the predictive analytics and the modeling and dashboards. And we identified that there was an additional $2.2 billion that was needed so the bank didn't go under. And then also developed out staffing and capacity planning for collections of default. So implemented an automated dialing system that would automatically call customers and ask them to either call back or be warm transferred over to a call center rep or a collections rep. And then we used targeted messages to better handle collections and default. And this actually saved the bank about $9 million a month in phone capacity. This is tons and tons of people that they didn't need to make those calls through those targeted messages. And then it was able to help them increase their collections and curing by 25%. And we're talking billions of dollars. Obviously, this is a top 10 bank, so they're huge. And then better customer risk targeting. So this basically saved them about $40 million every month, not every year, every month, by identifying who they should collect on and foreclose first, which priorities and customers were best to restructure and make other offers to. And then it helped them to prioritize properties, loans, and targeted outcomes, and then make recommendations to those customers. And then here's another one related to retail. So a large online mass retailer was missing out on opportunities to add additional revenue by providing differentiated customer experiences and by offering the right items in the right order to increase cross-sell. So the solution that was provided to them was to identify optimal product mix and cross-selling offers. It also helped them to customize the consumer experience and optimize revenue through targeted revenue per customer and margin. So it wasn't just identifying which products they were most likely to purchase. It was also identifying which products they were most likely to purchase that actually made the retailer the most money. And then the results was recurring annual benefit of more than $80 million in additional cross-sell revenue and an increase of 94 cents per customer purchase. Think about that. If you have millions and millions of purchases within a year, yeah, 94 cents doesn't sound like much, but it added up to $80 million. And then the last one, and I see we're a couple minutes over time here, so I'll try to go quick, but Fortune 100 insurance company, small subsidiary of a Fortune 100 insurance company, provides health insurance services in 29 states and was facing new competition. They also had underpriced their products and were having some issues with claims experience. And then they also in addition to that, all these big, huge things were happening at the same time. They also had some bigger competitors that were grabbing up market share. They had underpriced the market. They had new entries into some of their key markets. And what was done? Performed customer segmentation of the customers. That included what they called geodemographic, or where you live, what you own, how much money you have. And then also what they call attitudinal segmentation, which is your behavior and your attitude towards health insurance. And then developed out some forecasting simulation tools to predict future product performance. And then developed out a marketing mix and market potential. And then market-based assessments to better target customers. So what were the results? Well, it transformed the subsidiary into the fastest growing individual health insurance company in the nation at the time, when most of the industry was actually shrinking. And this was actually during the economic downturn. So you can imagine that if we had not faced that economic downturn, it could have potentially been even more money. So what happened? Doubled the size of the portfolio by targeted high-value customers. In just 18 months, it went from 179,500 customers and about $300 million in revenue to over 350,000 and almost 400,000 by the time it had been 2 years, and over $500 million in additional new revenue. So it went from a $300 million division to an $800 million division. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us for the webinar, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and hope you join us on our next ones.